I can confidently say that this is the most amount of books I've ever unhauled at once on my channel. Look at them all. You can't even see the ground. You can only see from like this high up. I got ruthless today. I'm just gonna dismantle the piles around me as we go because I'm far too lazy to dismantle them first, and I just took the thumbnail picture. Let's start with Foundation by Isaac Asimov. There was a time in my life where I thought I was a sci-fi girly, that I wanted to be a sci-fi girly, that I was like, I'm super smart and intellectual. And then I realized sci-fi often is really boring, or it goes over my head, and I am truly not a super scientific sci-fi girly. I still love a sci-fi thriller. I really truly love dystopian. I have a dystopian Rex on my channel, and anything like that is really my bread and butter in sci-fi. But these more like science heavy ones, I'm just gonna stick to watching the Foundation TV show and not worry about reading the book. Another sci-fi for the exact same reason, Dune. I thought that I was going to be this person to conquer the Dune series. I will be sticking to watching the movie adaptations because this is just not for me. This, just not for me. The Coward by Stephen Aryan. I really, truly have leaned far away from fantasy this year. I have been in my romantasy era, but I specifically know that the fantasy that draws me in and why I haven't been into fantasy is the lack of what I want being published. Because I have learned that these dry, slower, more traveling, more Tolkien-esque fantasies don't really work for me. I need a little bit more action, high plot, high energy, typically a younger character, not young adult, but I do typically like them when they're similar to my age. I'm 27, and I just know that I'm never getting to this. It's been sitting on my shelf for like 2 years unread. Even when I was in my fantasy era, I didn't read it, so to the Goodwill pile it goes. First Become Ashes by K.M. Sparza. I picked this up a long time ago because I actually love a other book by this author. I loved A Docile by this author, but that is like a sci-fi dystopian story. It's really deep, really dark, and honestly incredible. This is a reverse Peter Pan fairy tale for anyone who desperately wished for magic to be real. And I learned that I don't think I'm ever going to read this. It has been sitting on my shelf a lot. I've actually used it in a lot of my photography photo shoots because I think that this yellow color looks so pretty as like a prop on like a picnic blanket or something. However, I'm never reading this. I need to get rid of it. I need more room on my shelves, and so things like this have got to go. Iron Widow, I DNF'd this. Self-explanatory. House of Hunger, I read. I gave it, I think, a 2-star, maybe a low 3, but it's a 2-star in my head. It doesn't need to sit on my shelf. Those are for the books I love. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, a classic, but again, a story I don't think I'm ever going to get to. I really, really leaned away from sci-fi, and if I do decide I want to get to this eventually, I can always take it out from the library. I do not need sci-fi to have its own shelf anymore. I'll just keep my favorites, and I'm good with that. There may be a sibling to this somewhere, but The Swordsman's Descent, which is Royal Champion Book 2, I read the first book in the series and I really liked it, but to me it reads like a standalone, and then I read the prequel novella and I hated that, and I just don't think I'm ever going to dive into this series. Honestly, I can't remember whether the first book is in this pile or on my shelves, but either way, I will never be reading the second book. It does not need to sit on my shelf just because I liked the first book. Darkwater Daughter by H.M. Long. I bought this on a whim at the bookstore. This year I've been really trying to not buy things on a whim at the bookstore because I'm unhauling a lot of things today and probably also next year. I have a plan where I just went to the bookstore and I was in the mood to buy books, and so I just bought random books that I thought sounded somewhat okay, but I didn't really research into them. I didn't look for reviews. I'm really trying to spend my money wisely on books. I can use the library, I can buy books later after I've read them, I can buy the ebooks and save money, and then if I don't like it, I don't have to continue. I just don't think I actually ever plan on reading this. Again, I will get it from the library if I need to in the future. This book has not been talked about enough for me to want to read it. Also, anyone's gonna come in the comments and be like, oh my god, why'd you unhaul that book? I love that book. Too late, these are already gone. I already made up my mind. I don't need those comments. The Grey Bastards by Jonathan French. I was going to do a vlog where I read the SPFBO winners or something like that at some point, and I decided I don't want to because I read the first chapter of this and I didn't really enjoy it. I don't think that this is going to be for me. I've learned really more my taste in fantasy, and honestly my romantasy leaning sway this year makes sense in my head, and I can't see myself going back to these super dry, long fantasies. Not that this one's long, but I really don't. I think this is going to be too comedic for me as well. Navigating the Stars by Maria V. Snyder. I did read this. I gave it 3 stars. I might continue on. I do think it's on my series spreadsheet, and I do want to try book 2 in maybe the next Reader DNF episode, but I don't plan on ever owning book 2 or 3. I didn't love this enough to keep it, so I'm going to get rid of it. I just also don't need book 1s of series sitting on my shelves all the time. I don't see myself recommending this enough to want to have a copy to just like hold up in videos, because sometimes I do that where I'm like, I would like to own book 1 so I can hold it up in videos because it makes my editing life so much easier. This was just a little too YA for me, but it is a YA sci-fi, and I did enjoy elements of this one. I just don't plan on owning the rest. Ooh, these 3 big boys are the Legacy trilogy by Matthew Ward, which I actually really liked. Book 1 I gave 4 stars, and book 2 I gave 3 stars. I have not read book 3 yet. However, it took me like 4 years to read book 2 after book 1, and I liked book 2. I didn't love it, but I felt like the story wrapped up pretty nicely, and I just can't see myself ever picking up book 3, especially because it doesn't have an audiobook, because I feel like all the plot threads that I really cared about were wrapped up in book 1 and 2, and the lack of audiobook for this one is really just hurting it, because these are chonky. But if you like epic fantasy, I would recommend giving that series a try. I did really enjoy it, and I do think it is very unique. Next up is The Shadow of the Gods and The Hunger of the Gods. I have tried this book 3 times and DNF'd it, so I just truly don't think that this series is going to be for me. I find the writing style in it is just really dry and overly flowery, and it just didn't really work for me. I just couldn't get invested into characters, and I keep saying I'm gonna try it again, but how many times does a book need to be DNF'd before I just like move on from it? And I think I've reached a point where I'm okay moving on from this, and I don't need to own them. I don't need to try them again. I have come to terms with the fact that this is not a story for me, even though it worked for so many other people. I'm scared of that one. It's actually really like sturdy. I built this one good, so we're gonna go to the small pile over here. The Ninth Reign, I actually gave 5 stars, but Maria was gracious enough to send me her broken binding editions of the entire series. I don't need to keep a paperback and this edition that's really pretty, so I'm just unhauling my paperback version because now I have hardcovers from the broken binding, which are really unique of the entire series. Also, when Maria sent them to me, she sent me this cute little cat card. So it's in there. I feel like I unhauled this already, but I honestly don't remember. But I've talked so much about my dislike of this story. I think I did unhaul this. Oops. Well, it didn't actually leave with the rest of the books. So, To Bleed a Crystal Bloom by Sarah A. Parker is leaving. I gave this 2 stars. It's probably the worst book I read this year. I didn't like the romance in this. It kind of gave me the ick. Things like that. I have Sarah A. Parker. Not an author for me. The Judas Blossom by Stephen Aryan. Again, we saw this author once before. I was just really convinced that this author was going to be for me because I don't know why. I didn't even hear people talking about them. I just decided that they were going to be my next new favorite author when I actually have no interest in their books. This is super historical, I believe. Yeah, it's like in the 1260s, and I don't like historical settings that are in like our world at all. Why did I even buy this? Gone. This one's kind of interesting because I do think I'm interested in reading this at some point. Not enough to own it. I would just rather read it from the library, read an ebook. I'm really trying to make my shelves be books that I love, which was funny because once upon a time I just wanted my shelves to be a giant TBR, and now I'm really trying to lean into them just being a collection of things I love. I don't know. I just feel like I'm not going to love this, and I just feel like I'm okay letting go of this story. I've had it for like a year. I've never gravitated towards picking it up. Such Sharp Teeth by Rachel Harrison. I read this. I really didn't like it. I gave it, I think, 2 stars, maybe 3 stars. Don't plan on rereading it ever again. It can leave. Oh, one that I didn't put in this pile that can also leave. Let me get it. So Thirsty by Rachel Harrison. I read this earlier this year and I didn't like it. I gave it 2 stars. I kind of boring. Did I give it 3 stars? I don't remember. It can leave. Bride by Ali Hazelwood. I DNF'd this book 3 pages in. I just realized the writing style was too chipper for me. Everyone screams about it. It just, I don't know, something about it. Not my vibe. Pines by Blake Crouch. Another one that I actually did like, but I just don't plan on owning the rest of them, so I can get rid of this. I would like to continue reading. I think I will get the audiobooks for the rest. I just don't plan on continuing, and I don't need to own this. The Last Girl Standing, a random book that I bought, and I don't really plan on reading. Ooh, some special editions. The Serpent and the Wings of Night, I actually just kind of hate this edition. I've hated it since I got it. I feel like it's far too dark. You can barely see anything on it. I have a different edition of this book coming. I've just decided that every time I look at this, I get depressed by how dark it is and how I can't see any of the image on this. So I am going to be getting rid of this. I will most likely be selling this somewhere somehow. We don't have Pango Books in Canada, so probably not on like Facebook Marketplace or something. This one hurts my soul because it's so freaking pretty and I just want it to sit on my shelf. But Court of Nightmares by K.A. Knight, I also DNF'd this like 100 pages in. This was too wild for me. This was not it for me, but I do think that this is one of the prettiest editions that I've ever had. I really do love the way that this cover looks. It's beautiful. But K.A. Knight is not for me. I've read Den of Vipers and then I tried this one. This one's even wilder than Den of Vipers. I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. Fairy Loot edition of Nectar of the Wickeds was a 2-star for me. Again, sad because I think it's absolutely stunning, but I don't need to keep a 2-star on my shelf just because I thought it was pretty. I should just never read them if I think they're pretty. The first edition of Immortal Dark by Tigris Gurma, I give this 3 stars. I just don't think I care enough to own the book. It does have a pretty sprayed edge, but I don't know if I'm even going to continue this, so I don't need to just hold on to this book for a year when I probably won't end up continuing. Ooh, a short story collection, Legends 2. I bought this used, thinking I was going to be a short story person and really realizing that I only like horror short stories. I do not like fantasy short stories. I will continue to read the horror collections, but this is not for me. It can go. Oh, which way do we go? I guess this one. These two are a DNF from me. I've actually tried a bunch of Michael J. Sullivan's stuff. None of it works for me. His writing style is just not for me. I can get rid of this very happily because I did DNF Theft of Swords quite early on. Children of Time. I will probably ask my sister if she wants this back. I've also tried this 3 times and it just went over my head every single time. So it can go. As I said, I wanted to be a sci-fi girly. I am not. The giant spiders in this are kind of cool. I don't need to own this, but my sister might want to own it, so it'll probably go to her house. Rabbits, more sci-fi. I really cleared out my sci-fi shelf in this one. I've owned this for 3 years maybe. I've never once been like, I'm gonna pick up rabbits. I think that says enough. Remember when I said that was sturdy? Shit. Welp. Give me a second. Problem fixed. We have 2 piles going on this side now. A Crown for Cold Silver, which is a grim, dark story that I actually picked up because I did like 4 or 5 years ago. There was a thing on Chapters where you could like put in what you like in books and someone that worked at Chapters would give you a recommendation, and this is what they recommended to me 4 or 5 years ago. I haven't read this. Honestly, I've heard good things about this first book, but really meh about the rest of the series. And honestly, I don't need to read books like that. Like, I don't need to be completely obsessed with the first book just to be let down with the rest of the series. I don't need that kind of heartbreak in my life. Gone. A really recent unhaul, which you guys saw in the second episode of Reader DNF, where like I'm working through my series list. Thank you so much for the love on that video. That's where a lot of this unhauling happened. Is the Black Coast series. The God King Chronicles is what it's called. This was kind of sad to see go, but I read the first book of this beginning of my channel. My Patreon is actually based off of the land dragons that live in a dragon stable in this story, and so I kind of had a hard time letting go of this because I gave this 4 stars and I really enjoyed it. I DNF'd the Splinter King pretty quickly into it, and none of my friends had said good things about it. I said I was going to give another try, but when it came down to it, I just kept putting it off and never giving it another try, and I'm at the point where I don't want to give it another try, so I wanted to unhaul these, and I'm also going to unhaul the Black Coast because I don't recommend it ever on my channel, although I did really enjoy it. It's not really where my reading taste sits anymore. I don't really need it. I don't need this on my shelf at all. So I'm unhauling it. Although I did think it was very unique. Also in that same episode, I decided to unhaul A Dawn of Onyx and A Promise of Pure Dough. This is the indie copy of A Dawn of Onyx. I DNF'd A Promise of Pure Dough 100 pages in, so I'm getting rid of these. I just honestly think the first book was a standout book and the rest have gotten worse since. And as I said, that kind of heartbreak, that kind of letdown is just not for me anymore. And so we're moving on. There are better books out there. Well, not that these aren't good. Better books for me out there. Because some people do love this series. I'm unhauling Court of Blood and Bindings. I read this, gave it a very meh 3-star. Don't plan on continuing the series anymore, so I can get rid of it. I did like the color magic in this. It kind of reminded me of Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson, but I didn't love the romance in this, and it's a romantasy, so you probably should love the romance. Lady of Darkness by Melissa K. Rowick. I DNF'd the second book, and I kept saying I was going to try it again, but I don't really plan on it. I just felt, again, like this was like any other romantasy I've read. I felt really meh about this and decided not to continue on in the series, but I know that this series is getting so much love. I'm still excited to try Melissa K. Rourke's other series, but this one was not for me. It was a little young reading, a little bit Throne of Glass, like if you are a Throne of Glass fan. The Nesting, a horror book that's been sitting on my shelf for a very long time that I have never even gravitated towards reading. I forget I own it. I don't know what this is about. I don't really want to read it. Gone. King of Battle and Blood by Scarlett St. Clair. I do think that I will continue on in the series and read the second book. However, I don't feel the need to own this. I didn't love it enough to own it, so bye-bye it goes. But I did like the vampire take, and I liked the romance, even though it was a little quick and hot and heavy. 13 Stories by Jonathan Sims. Listen, I picked this up because Lexi said something about it and I thought it sounded interesting. And then Lexi read it, didn't really like it. I trust her opinion enough to get rid of this. She said it was boring, and if Lexi finds a book boring, like, I'm gonna fall asleep in it. So, Gone with the Wind. When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker, the indie edition. As I said earlier, this is not an author for me. I didn't like the other book by her. I didn't like this book by her. This was clunky and messy, and I had a lot of thoughts while reading this. I will not be continuing on in the series, so why do I need to own this book still? The Song of the Marked. This one kind of sucks. I decided to DNF this series and I was going to keep this on my shelf because it is signed and personalized. But then I was like, why? I have actually another book by this author that I liked, signed and personalized. I didn't even like this first book. Why did I even buy it? Why did I get it signed and personalized? I don't know. Sometimes I make bad decisions. And this was one of them. Prairie of the Orange Tree, which has sat on my shelf for a long time. Been DNF'd twice. I have no interest in trying this again, but I just keep leaving it on my shelf because it's so pretty. But no longer do I have the want to keep books that I didn't like on my shelf. Bye-bye. This is a brick. I could hit someone over the head with this. Maybe that's why I kept it on my shelf. The Road of Bones, a romantasy that I gave 3 stars, didn't really like. It was just okay. It was meh. It was mid. It was boring. This brings NVA to my shelf. No value added. It's an NVA book. This could hurt some people. Empire of the Vampire by J. Kristoff. I've read the Nevernight trilogy and I just thought that was kind of like mid too. I am keeping that series, but I've DNF'd this. I thought it was dry. I didn't like it and I don't have any interest in trying it again, so it can go bye-bye even though a lot of people scream about this. It was just so long and dry and not for me. The Blighted Stars, a sci-fi book that I do not plan on reading. I don't even know why I own this. Why do I own this? Why did I get this? Who was I? I must have blacked out and just bought a bunch of books at one point. Blood of the Stars by Karen Norton. This was in my SBFBO batch this year. I read it. I thought it was mid. Don't really plan on continuing the series. Don't really need to own this book. It takes up a lot of room on my shelf. It didn't go through as my finalist. And Bishop, the Black Jewels trilogy. I literally remember buying this book just because I wanted to buy a book. Who am I? Why did I think I have this much disposable income to do things like that? Because I don't. I have disposable income, but not to do things like this. So it did sit on my shelf for 3 years because I was like, well, I can't just get rid of it because I just bought it. Gone now. Leviathan Wakes. I own the audiobook of this if I ever decide to try it again, but like chances are slim. I DNF'd it twice. It's dry. It's got a dry start. I'll watch the show. An heir comes to rise and a queen comes to power. This is a really pretty edition. Again, this is signed and personalized, so I don't know what to do with it, but I don't want it on my shelves. You don't need to go home, but you can't stay here. I DNF'd the second book, and not for me. It was boring. Shadowless by Randa McNally. This is one of the first books I was ever sent to review, or like sent a review copy. Still haven't read it. Don't plan on it. I did back in the day, but since then, don't think I'm gonna like this. The author does not need my negative review. The Cytonic series by Brandon Sanderson. I will probably send these to my little cousin. I did actually really like them, but since I read the second book, I've just had no interest in reading the third book. So I DNF'd the series and decided to bless and release it because why hold on to books that I don't really plan on continuing? And like, I feel like I can love a book when I read it and then have no interest in reading the rest later on, especially if time passes too much, or if you hear not so great things, or if there are 2 novellas that are literally book size that come out that you're supposed to read and I didn't want to read them. Shots fired. The Blood Trials by N.E. Davenport, a YA series that I have a feeling I'm just going to feel mid about, and I have not gravitated towards picking it up ever, so I'm going to get rid of it. Furyborn by Claire Legrand. I DNF'd this. I thought I was going to give it another try. I'm not going to give it another try. Bye-bye. The Black Prism by Brent Weeks. Honestly, I've heard not great things about this book. I've heard that it has some fat shaming. I'm just not interested in reading that. These two, not by the same author, but they're gonna go together. Winter of Ice and Iron and The Winter Road. I read these back when I thought I was really into like polar fantasies, and I wanted to be hip and read some that no one had ever heard about. There was a reason no one's ever heard about them. I read the first chapter of both of these 3 years ago. Never continued. Probably never will, and they don't need to stay on my shelf where things go to die. I'm pretty sure I unhauled this one before too, so sorry if there's repeats. The Witch Hunter by Casey Hollingshead. I was sent this. I have no interest in this. So sorry. Again, author doesn't need a bad review. The paperback edition that I own, To An Heir Comes to Rise. If I'm getting rid of the special edition, I should probably get rid of the normal edition too, right? Listen, this was the most mid book I've ever read. Like, it was not good. Sorry, bye. My Heart is a Chainsaw. I read this. I didn't hate it, didn't love it, kind of thought it was mid. Don't need to keep it. Wings of Fire, another short story collection that I picked up and realized I don't like fantasy short story collections. I'm not reading this. Why are there so many books that are just like the same thing? Shaman's Crossing. You know what? I was in my Robin Hobb era. You can see it back here. I still haven't finished these. And I was like, I'm going to pick up her other series. I've heard not good things about this series. I can barely make it through those sometimes, and they're good. Like, those are 5-star books, but sometimes they're just like, they're a lot. I have to really like be ready to read them. I'm not reading this. If people didn't like it, why did I just want to be like, I just thought my channel had to have like unique stories and things that people weren't reading for it to do good, and then that's not true. Y'all are here for me and my vibes, right? You're here for the vibes that are vibing. Did I unhaul these already as well? I don't even know anymore. The Carissa Broadbent Daughter of No World series that I hated. I hated them. So they can go. I just was keeping them because I really liked the covers and they were pretty, but they can go. Serpent is everything to me, but that story, not for me. The Mask Mirrors, I DNF'd this. I don't have much to say when I DNF'd a book. Like, bye-bye. I didn't like it. Other people will love it. Spine of the Dragon, Melanor reads, didn't like. I don't think I will like it then. Self-explanatory. I trust people to give me good decision making. If you didn't like a book, I don't even need to try it. Bye. Nomads of the Sea by Kobe Zucker. I actually really liked this one, and it is also signed. I've heard no news on a sequel. The back of the book made me feel like there wasn't a sequel, but things don't wrap up. Although I liked this. It's long, it's big, I hate this cover. No second book is ever coming. It's gone. If you don't have a book coming, I don't want it. If you're gonna leave me hanging for the rest of my life, I'm sorry I'm never reading your book, or I'm not keeping them. Like, you will not catch me reading Game of Thrones until that final book comes out, and it's never gonna come out. Blood of the Spear, I read this one. I did like it. I don't think I actually plan on continuing it though, so I don't need to own it. It was good though. The Blade itself, I've come to the conclusion that I will not enjoy the series. I know I'm going to break a lot of people's hearts. A lot of people love Joe Abercrombie. I've heard just like not good things. I'm sorry. Like, especially people who know what I like and stuff. This is just not for me. It's going to be far too slow for me. I don't even need to try it. I do not need to put myself through this torture. Burn Red Skies. This is an indie who's been on my shelf for a very long time. I never even feel like a need. Most of the time when I think about picking this up, I feel against it. Like, I feel like anti-picking it up. So I should unhaul it, right? That's a big unhaul, and honestly, I think there's more coming. Especially after the next episode of Reader DNF, who I've been ruthless these days, and it feels really good. So I encourage you. I talked about Read or DNF a lot in this video, so I will link episode 1 and 2 up here for you to watch in case you've missed them. It is the biggest series ongoing on my channel right now, so I would love it if you checked it out. I think it's a lot of fun, and if you like to see me be ruthless, you'll really like those. And if you made it all the way to the end of this video and you'd like to leave me an emoji just to say you were here, leave me the heart with the band-aid around it for My Heart is a Chainsaw.